Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour, DraftKings Countermove breakdown for Fight Night 72, or, as they like to say on the Twitterverse, Fight Night Glasgow.
I'm sure it's got many names.
Yarr!
Yarr.
That's my Scottish accent.
Sounds like a pirate.
I feel like all Scots are pirates.
I don't know why you would say that, but okay, fair enough.
Well, it seems like I've been watching Game of Thrones. They're putting it in Scotland. Some of them sound like pirates to me. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a Game of Thrones guy, but Braveheart. It's a great movie.
There you go, with Mel Gibson with his like fake half Australian American accent.
It was better than this pirate accent.
Yarr! Let's get to the picks, matey. Now, I have to have a bone to pick with you about last week's picks.
Oof.
They were fucking shit.
Yeah, not very good.
Do you know why?
Bit of an off week.
Do you know why? Because I didn't mispronounce a single name on last week's episode. I put a hex on it.
Oh.
You don't need a hex. I've noticed, though, over the course of these picks, I've been doing this for 14 weeks, taking your picks, playing them in cash lineups, and they're 10-4, so I'm not complaining at all. I'm winning money. Everyone's winning money who's following the picks. But the bigger cards, you struggle with.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure what it is.
Your heart gets into it.
Like, there's so many good pick'em fights, and yeah, maybe I get my heart into it because you see these guys all the time, so you're just like, oh, I know what this guy's capable of. I know what he's capable of. And then the whole Murphy's Law kicks you right in the nads.
So I feel like with these smaller cards, with guys with last week's card, the reason I didn't get any names wrong because I knew the names.
Yeah.
Because those were real guys that I see all the time.
And I did fairly good on the San Diego card on Wednesday, but we didn't
do
cover
that,
it,
yeah.
right? So
you guys did that on Bookie Beatdown,
yes,
which you can follow with the almighty Paul Blart, Paul Shaughnessy.
Paul Shaughnessy.
I was seeing Paul Blart commercials on TV again.
Yeah.
And remember when we used to call Paul Blart? He used to get very upset. He got so upset to the point we had to stop calling him that. But now that it's back, hopefully he's toughened up a little bit with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get to this card. Oh, of course, I probably should say that I am no MMA expert by any means. You are. I am the daily fantasy guy. And every time you hear me mispronounce a name, you're going to hear. And everyone can have a good laugh.
Well, you know what? You did pretty good last time, so
I can't do that this time, man.
I need you to have a bad performance here, and I need myself to have a good performance here. So this should be a good card to rebound.
All right, and I went through it. So one of the things that I like to do is look at the betting odds of the fight, look at the Countermove price, and look at the DraftKings price, compare them, and see if there's any value if some of the sites have guys off. And this week, frankly, there wasn't. Everything is basically in line. So let's get to the top of the card. We have Michael Bisping at 9.8 on DraftKings, and on Countermove, he's 5.2. His opponent, oh good God, here we go, Thales Letties.
Talis.
Yeah.
You could have even said Latis or Latis.
Latis. Oh, I have the pirate in my head.
Oh, there you go.
He's exactly the same. He's 9.8 as well. He's 5.2. The betting odds are exactly the same at -110.
Pick 'em fight.
Is it a pick 'em fight? Do you have a strong feeling on this fight, though?
Yeah, well, I like Michael Bisping simply because 5-round main event. Michael Bisping's the type of guy that can just keep a wicked pace going throughout the fight. So even if he's just doing okay the first maybe round or two, he'll always pick it up as the fight goes on. And when we see when he absolutely gets blown out of the water against guys like Luke Rockhold or Vitor Belfort, they blow him out really fast. If he's able to keep in the fight, then he's a competitive guy. He'll fight to the end. The one knock on him is most definitely the Tim Kennedy fight that he had in Quebec City, where his wrestling chops were just not on display. He was taken down and controlled for the majority of those 5 rounds. But he rebounded in Montreal against CB Dollaway, another fellow wrestler. And I think even if this fight is competitive against Thales Letties in the first couple rounds, I think as it goes on, Thales Letties will tire. Michael Bisping is being able to come through in the later rounds. So I'm leaning Michael Bisping most definitely on this one because it's the 5 rounds. I think he's going to be able to score a decent amount, but because they're both 9,800 on DraftKings, we've done this before in the past. I don't mind playing both guys.
You don't mind playing both.
Don't
so
mind
you think
playing
this goes
both guys.
to a decision either way? You don't think there's a finish in here?
Even if it's going to be a finish, it's going to be Michael Bisping with volume punches in the 4th or 5th round, but you're still going to get more rounds than a regular 3-rounder out of Thales Letties. Thales Letties has really shown in the last couple of years that his striking is on a new level, and his jiu-jitsu's always been on a fantastic level. So he has that possibility to knock out Michael Bisping, has that possibility to submit Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping will not submit Thales Letties. I do not see that happening. And he's not really a knockout puncher. He's not the kind of guy that lands one big punch and knocks you out. He's the kind of guy that hits you so many times that your body just wilts. So because it's 5 rounds, maybe he gets Thales Letties in the 4th or 5th, but Letties will do enough to score $9,800 worth. Like, that's not a crazy value that I don't mind playing both guys.
Especially on a card like this, having two $9,800 guys. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of taking 2 guys in the same fight, although, like you said, the 5 round makes it a little bit better.
That's what helps it.
But, like, when you go through and look at this card, like, if you're not taking a favorite, it seems like you're taking a scrub. Like, there's a lot of mismatched fights on this card.
It's hard to fit all your guys together. And the reason why I actually didn't fully put Talis Ladies on our sheet here, we just kind of gave him like an asterisk at the bottom, is that if you want to play a safe lineup, I think playing Bisping and Talis Ladies is the safe lineup. I think that they're both going to score a moderate amount of points, and it'll beat you. If you're in a head-to-head matchup, you're going to beat a guy. If you're playing in a big pool here, then go with Chris De La Roca, who we'll get to later. And I think he's got the kind of ability that he might be able to score big. If he doesn't score big, he doesn't score big. If you want to play it safe, maybe play both guys.
Well, tell me a little bit about Chris De La Roca then. Let's get to that fight.
Okay, so he's actually really old, 36 years old, and he's only 4-0. So this is a guy that obviously doesn't have a lot of experience as his age would suggest. But at heavyweight, that's the one weight class where you can mature later on. And we see with guys like Frank Mir, with guys like Fabricio Verdum, with guys like Krokop and Andrei Arlovsky, they all seem to be fighting maybe potentially their best fights ever, and they're fighting them at the later stages in their career. So there's such big guys that are able to do that. Chris De La Roca, as I mentioned, 4-0 undefeated guy. He's highly touted in Washington to the point
Washington State or Washington, D.C.?
Washington State. So he's a Pacific Northwest fighter. And you know, those guys are really hard-nosed, grinding type guys.
Or they're hippies.
Yeah, he doesn't fall on the ladder here. All of his wins are by first-round finish. Either he knocks the guy out or he submits them. The flip side to that is his opponent, Damian Omalanchuk, is pretty durable. So if he doesn't go... I wanted you to try to pronounce that one.
No, there's a reason I circumvented the whole pronunciation.
Yeah.
So say it for me. Daniel
Omalanchuk.
Omalanchuk?
Yeah.
So he's like Mikey Omalan?
Yeah,
with
Chuck. And Paul Shaughnessy calls him Danny O's.
Danny O's!
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, just like
I like that a lot
together.
more.
So with Omalanchuk, I mean, his 2 losses in the UFC, he got grinded both times. There wasn't a whole lot of offensive output being put on him, but he didn't get finished by no means. So if De La Roca goes in there, he's a bit of a short-nosed replacement coming in for Konstantin Rokin, right? So he's coming in short notice. He's 36 years old. He's got to fly all the way from Washington all the way to Scotland. He might have one solid round and then gas out huge. The flip side to that is if he does have one solid round and he does some of the things that he's able to do, then he should get it. He's got a knockout win over a guy named DJ Linderman, who Anthony Johnson actually notoriously broke his ability. He had granite chin, and then Anthony Johnson ruined that. Now he does get knocked out quite a little bit, but that's a big win for him, and I think a fight like that will serve him well in a fight like Daniel Omalanchuk, who has literally crapped the bed his last couple fights, so avoid him.
This is something that stuck out to me because I've never seen it before with this next fight. Joseph Duffy is 11-2 on DraftKings. He's 5-7 on Kountermove. That's a very high price, but it's because his opponent, I'm gonna try this 2 ways. It's either Ivan George or it's Ivan Jorge.
You got it the first time.
Okay.
Had you guessed it on the second time, I'd say no, but it's Ivan George.
Well, there's no nationality next to this guy's name.
And he is Brazilian, by the way. So
this just makes no sense.
Yeah, but that's the way they call him, so that's the way I call him.
Either way, he's $3,900 on Kountermove. How bad does this guy suck?
Have you ever seen someone that cheap?
No, I've never seen anyone below 4,100, and this guy's below 4,000.
Yeah, he's actually just a product of his opponent's hype here. Joseph Duffy was the last man to defeat Conor McGregor, so he gets this trickle-down hype effect where it's like, Joseph Duffy can't be beat, no, right? It's like, okay, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but the betting line's like 8-1, and that's pretty crazy.
Minus 800 plus 500 for George.
Yeah, and it's also important to know here that Joseph Duffy does seem to be the complete package. I mean, he's got a credible boxing background. He's got a credible grappling background. He has a good record. He has the win over Conor McGregor. He's a former Cage Warriors guy. He's working at the TriStar gym, same former gym as, Rory McDonald and George St. Pierre. He's got a lot of good things going for him. Most notably in his UFC debut.
Is he Canadian?
No, he's an Irish fighter, but he traveled over to Montreal, and that's where he's been training. In his UFC debut, he got the first-round finish, right? So I think a lot of people are like, wow, he is a finisher. His career suggests he's a finisher. He's coming off a first-round finish. He does score big. He beat Conor McGregor. He's a must-have. He's a must-have. And I don't necessarily disagree with playing him. I do think he'll probably get the finish. But Ivan George is durable. And Joseph Duffy's only loss, he got caught in a fluke guillotine choke. And Ivan George has got 13 submission wins. So it's not crazy out of this world to expect that this might be a slow, grinding fight, and he might, maybe Ivan George get that submission. I would play Joseph Duffy. I would 100% play him on all my lineups, but he's too expensive on Kountermove and DraftKings that I now can't afford the rest of my guys. So I sadly did not put him on DraftKings or Kountermove, but I don't disagree with people that want to load up on him.
So what you're saying is that he probably is the best value on the board. It's just where he's so expensive, you don't like the rest of your team if you have to take him.
I would take him if I could sit here and say he'll get the first-round finish, because that is first-round finish prices. If I'm paying that kind of money for a guy, I need that.
This is Ronda Rousey prices.
Absolutely. And she's going to get the first-round finish more than likely.
Yeah, that's why you take her every time.
He may get a finish, but I see it being a second- or third-round finish, or he doesn't get a finish and he just beats Ivan George up for 3 rounds. As I mentioned, Ivan George doesn't have a spectacular run in the UFC, but if anything, The guy can take a punch. And he's so short and he's so stocky that he's hard to take down, and he'll move you up against the cage, and he'll stay in close quarters, and he'll sit there. And I think Duffy beats him, obviously, but I think it's a bad stylistical matchup for someone who wants to blow somebody out of the water and get a first-round finish.
So what you're saying is if he doesn't get the first-round finish, he's not going to accumulate a whole lot of points along the way. He's going to be grinding it out with this other guy the entire time.
He might still score a lot of points,
but
but he's not going to score that for the amount of money you're paying for the guy. That you need the first-round finish, because now you're going to take guys where it's like, well, I actually think this guy's going to lose, but he'll get enough points, and Duffy's going to get me that first-round finish. Duffy doesn't get you that first-round finish, then you can't afford good guys, right?
On Kountermove, would it be worth it to take George as a punt and to say, maybe he can grind out 3 rounds, score a few points, probably loses along the way?
I don't mind. And I didn't do that, but I wouldn't mind.
And basically just say, you know what, this is a dead spot in my lineup if I can afford the 4 guys that I really want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And you know what? This is probably going to sound stupid, but you could theoretically take George as a means to afford the 3 other guys you want and still take Duffy.
Yeah.
Because if Duffy knocks him out, then it's like, well, I'll get my first-round finish, so it doesn't matter that my guy just got blasted in the first round, because it's going to be a decent point balance. And if Ivan George can get me 2 or 3 rounds, or at least last, and I got Duffy going all the way, then potentially. That one's a little more risky, but for $3,900, that is crazy value.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have 2 of the same fighters in a guaranteed prize pool, because you generally need 5 winners in order to win.
Yeah.
But for cash purposes, I mean, if you think you can get your 4 guys through, then that's not a bad strategy to go about it. Next fight, Michael Laboute versus Teemu Packalén.
Yeah.
Making his
debut. Short notice.
Short notice? Packalén is?
Yeah.
Okay, so he is a minus 130 favorite, though,
yes.
in this fight. He's 9-7 on DraftKings. Laboute? So he is French. It's not like some weird Haitian name or something.
Yeah, Michael Laboute.
All right, he's 9,500 on DraftKings. They're both 4,800 on Kountermove. Do you have a strong feeling either way? This Packalén guy, 7-0.
Yeah, 7-0, and I think he was 6-1 as an amateur too. Good brown belt out of Finland, known for his grappling chops. Michael Laboute, he made his UFC debut on short notice at 170 pounds, which is a weight class above what he competes at, 155. On short notice, UFC debut against a wizard with jiu-jitsu. Sergio Moraes is next level on the ground. And Sergio Moraes did beat him, but didn't really have much to offer him, to be honest with you. I was very surprised with how good Michael Laboute was able to survive on the ground. So now he's got a similar matchup where it's okay, you're going to take on another jiu-jitsu whiz. It's again? It's yeah, but this guy's not even as good as that last guy. And you did pretty good against the last guy. So Michael Laboute's definitely got a shot. Teemu, someone that they really hyped this guy up, but I would avoid this one altogether.
Okay. Is there anyone in the world named Teemu that's not from Finland?
Oh, no, because the only other one I know is Solani.
Solani, yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming that is a Finnish name.
Marcus Brimage versus Jimmy Rivera. I don't like that Jimmy spells his name I-E. I don't like
You're
that.
a fan of the Y.
I would prefer the Y.
What if it's Jimi Hendrix, J-I-M-I?
Maybe for music.
It looks cool.
It gets a pass. I feel like for fighting, I feel like it's a soft heart. Who do you like in this fight, though? It's very close in terms of odds and pricing.
Jimmy Rivera. I feel bad for Marcus Brimage, and I hate to bet against the guy because I actually really do like the Bama Beast, but it seems like he's the guy that the UFC brings in to fight these super studs on the way up. He welcomed Conor McGregor into the UFC. It was hey, why don't you try taking on Marcus Brimage? And then he also welcomed in this Cody Garbrandt kid who ended up knocking him out as well. And now he's getting this tough task that he's welcoming Jimmy Rivera. I believe Jimmy Rivera is actually a short notice replacement, but that being said, he's the kind of kid that's always in the gym. And if you look at his record, 16 wins, 1 loss. The 1 loss happened in his second pro fight by way of split decision. So in a parallel universe, that one other judge gives it to him, and that's his second pro fight, man, young kid. He'd be 17-0 right now. And he was also 6-0 as an amateur. He's a New Jersey State wicked standout. His last 2 fights, he's finished by way of knockout. Prior to that, he was more of a decision guy, but he's only 27 years old. I feel like he's really growing. And he's out of a gym, Team Tiger Schulman, who I'm not a huge fan of the gym because they don't really work a whole lot of grappling, but they're very, very, very striking eccentric. And they have fantastic strikers. They kind of always have.
So they just basically build guys up for daily fantasy.
That's exactly it. And Marcus Brimage is the guy that it's okay, this is a young up-and-coming prospect who's got a lot of hype behind him. You're that serviceable mid-pack guy. You go welcome in, right? And if his track record's any indication, he's got knocked out in his last other 2 ones. So Jimmy Rivera is either going to knock out Marcus Brimage, or I think he's just going to take that 3-round decision. I see him getting the win. His odds, if you want to bet the straight money line, is actually quite good. And I did put him on my Kountermove and DraftKings team because he was pretty cheap.
Yeah, he's 9,800 on DraftKings, 4,800 on Kountermove.
Yeah, it's value there.
Any quick finishes down this card that you see that you have to hop on?
Yeah, well, you know what? When you look at this card, it's not really a quick finish type of card, to be honest with you. At least I'm sure there are going to be quick finishes.
It's just hard to pinpoint.
But there's not really stuff that really jumps out of the way because every time you're like, well, this guy's got mad skills. It's like, well, you know what? His opponent's also a pretty skilled guy as well. But how
about Stevie Ray?
I was going to say one half of Harlem Heat, Stevie Ray.
No, he's Jimmy Ray's brother. He should come out to Are You Stevie Ray?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure Jimmy Ray needs the work. He could use the extra bucks.
I'll tell you something about Stevie Ray, all right? 1, he's Scottish. Fighting in Scotland, that's got to count for something. 2, his nickname is Braveheart, right? Do you really want to put money against this guy?
Unless his move is like to come out and moon his opponent.
I thought that was the only move. Isn't that
Well, if that happens, he's probably going to die.
That's actually, I never really got past that part of the movie.
Spoiler, I guess. Sorry.
I fell asleep after they mooned them.
How you fall asleep in Braveheart?
No, you know in The Simpsons where he's like, I got this great plan. He's with Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I didn't watch the end of it.
He's just like, but then there's a bloody battle and we all die. He's like, I never watched the end of it. Stevie Ray's actually, in his UFC debut against Marcin Bandel, he looked like the complete package. I mean, he's a little tad slow for my liking, but his grappling's good, his striking's good, his submission's good, his tenacity's good. He almost finishes Bandel at the end of the first round. Like, he's got Bandel done in a submission, and the round ends, and then he just walks out and buzzsaws him in the second round. And Bandel had a little bit of hype behind him as well. So you've got Stevie Ray who can get the finish, who has good grappling chops. At 25 years old, he just keeps getting better and better and better. His opponent, Leonardo Mafra, Brazilian guy being sent to Scotland to fight the Scottish guy hometown. I mean, he's almost in a situation where he's set up to lose. In his last fight, they gave him like the gimme of all gimmies against Kane Carrizosa, and he didn't really look particularly good. So I think Stevie Ray beats him, but I can't sit here and guarantee a finish because it might actually just go 3 rounds. But Stevie Ray to get the win. And we normally put the value pick on the week on the board. That Stevie Ray would have been the one I liked.
Minus 210?
Yeah, I like it.
And if you're wondering where the value pick of the week on the board is, we didn't have enough time. You'd be surprised how long that takes to angle properly.
Oh, I know. Chalk and cleaning it.
Yeah, cleaning it off. Make sure that it's not shining reflection on you.
You should get director A-Rap to do it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's true.
You want to go set that up right now, A-Rap? Yep. Yeah, nah. See how that works out. Any more fights that are worth mentioning here?
Yeah, Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson's he's a very skilled power puncher type guy. Very, very accurate. And against Evan Dunham is once again one of these serviceable gatekeeper type guys. And he's a grinder. He's the type of guy that has good strikes. He has good wrestling. He has good cardio.
But he's not the best at anything?
Yeah, he doesn't really overcome any one element of his game is not fantastic. I mean, there was a time back in around 2008, 2009 where people thought he might be the best in the world. But 6 years later, I mean, all that hype is completely gone. And he is not a top 10 guy. Ross Pearson, every time he comes out, he looks better and better. When he loses, it's like he goes back to the drawing board and fixes those mistakes. And he's not really one to get taken down and grinded on. So this one probably, once again, may not be a finish, but Ross Pearson does have a shot at knocking out Evan Dunham, perhaps in the second or third round because of just punch accumulation. And he is a very, very, very sharp puncher. He has big knockout wins in his past, and he kind of has that ability to avoid grinders, most notably the Diego Sanchez fight. So Ross Pearson, not bad value, and definitely someone I want to load up on.
Well, let's see if they end up on your DraftKings and Kountermove team. Let's start with DraftKings. And yeah, there's Ross Pearson, 10-3.
10-3, Ross Pearson, same price as Stevie Ray. So I loaded up Stevie Ray and Ross Pearson. Now you're playing two guys with 10-3. Now we need a little bit of more budget here. So we went with Jimmy Rivera, $9,800. Jimmy Rivera, as I mentioned, he's either going to get the finish or he's going to be able to just kind of pick apart Marcus Brimage and score some points on the feet, maybe even take it to the ground, but more than likely just kind of tag him up standing. So I don't mind Jimmy Rivera at $9,800. Keeping with the $9,800, I went with Michael Bisping. If you're just going to take one guy and you wanna take either Latest or Bisping, I'm leaning towards Bisping. He's going to have the 5 rounds to deal with. And just look at a fight like the Kung Lee fight. He's fighting a guy who's a very skilled striker, and he's able to just keep chipping away. Now by the 3rd or 4th round, you got Kung Lee, a guy that no one's ever really seen him just completely fatigued gas before. And he's like, oh my God, I'm bleeding everywhere. My face is mangled. I'm getting hit from every which way but loose. I'm getting kicked everywhere. I'm just hurting. Just succumbs to the pressure, and Michael Bisping gets the finish. So he's the kind of guy that's how he's going to beat you. He's just going to accumulate shots on you. So I don't mind Bisping. And then I went with Chris De La Roca at $9,300. He might lay a flat egg for me, which is an issue, or he might go out there and be absolutely spectacular.
So he's your guy that's going to make or break this in large prize pool tournaments. Either he comes out, gets the win. Probably no one's going to own him.
No one's going to own him because he's actually the betting line underdog. He's an American guy going over to Scotland to face a guy from Poland, right? So obviously the Polish guy he's not going to have a hometown advantage, but he's going to have that European hometown advantage kind of thing where there's going to be people there supporting him, obviously, and he's not traveling this massive amount of distance. But it's not even so much that I'm betting on Michael De La Roca. It's not even so much that I'm looking at him saying this guy's good. It's as much that Danny Omalanchuk is just not very good. His last camp, he spent the entire camp at American Kickboxing Academy in San Jose, a fantastic gym. And he had perhaps one of the worst performances of his career. So I just don't I think we've seen where the roof is for this guy, and it's quite low. De La Roca, he's a question mark, but I'm willing to toss some dice that it's higher roof than Danny Omalanchuk.
So a calculated gamble from your part about a guy that could get a very quick finish if he's going to win and really score a lot of points here.
But if you want to play it safe, I don't mind putting Talis on there, and Talis might get 60 points and lose, and Bisping might get 100 points and win, and then 160 between both guys at a fair price. I don't mind that.
You don't, but again, like I said, that's
for
probably
big ones you can't win.
For a big prize,
for sure.
If you're going to play like a $12 against 4,000 people and try to hit big,
you need guys like Chris De La Roca who could potentially go big.
And you can't take two guys from the same fight because then you're
shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, you're limiting your expectations and expected value of points. Like you can't hit that ceiling that you actually do need to win. For cash game purposes, though, if you do think they can both score, then I really have no problem with that. Let's go to Kountermove.
Kountermove.
And it's a very similar looking team, except we have this guy that I specifically avoided, so I wouldn't pronounce his name incorrectly, but I'm going to try it either way. Pal Pollock.
Yeah, pretty close. Paul Pollock. Yeah, pretty close.
That's what I said.
It's like John Pollock, but the Polish version. Pollock.
I know John Pollock.
You know, you're familiar.
I've met him.
We work in the same office.
We do. He sometimes walks by.
He's a grinding, like drag him out, grind him type of fare. The reason I took him was for $4,400. I mean, that's great value.
It's cap relief.
Exactly. His opponent, he would like to just come out there and blast you inside of one round. His last fight, he knocked out Seth Paczynski in 9 seconds. So a lot of people are looking, A lot of people are looking at him and they're thinking to themselves, I gotta have him on my team. He's a finesse fighter. Finesse fighters, they'll either knock you out very fast or you can grind on them and beat them down. Beat them down. In his UFC debut against Claudio Henrique Silva, he lost a split decision in just a dirty, grindy fight. And Henrique Silva, not that good. So I'm thinking Paul Pollock might have a rough first round. He's the Polish fighter against the British fighter here. But I think if he has a rough first round, he's going to keep grinding and keep grinding and keep grinding. He has not been finished in any of his losses. And prior to coming to the UFC, he had a real nice string of knockout and submission wins. So he could potentially finish down the stretch, but at the very least, I think he goes 3 rounds. I think as an underdog, I think he squeaks this one out and actually gets you the win bonus as well. So I don't mind Paul Pollock, and that allows me to have Jimmy Rivera, Stevie Ray, Michael Bisping, Ross Pearson, and still $300 left over in case somebody wants to try to boot off a guy like Michael Bisping, who is actually quite expensive on Kountermove in comparison to DraftKings. But yes, with $300 left over, never a bad thing.
Cody Saftik, Bookie Beatdown. Watch it on the Fantasy Sports Network and Fight Network every week with Paul O'Shaughnessy. You can follow Cody on Twitter at CJ Saftik, and you can follow me at the PME. And remember, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Hour on iTunes and YouTube. Go leave a review, but make it a positive one. Come on, people. Hurt my feelings. That hurt my feelings so much. Not really. I really don't care. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.